Fire for your mind. The Culture Clinician.
Counting or not counting gang violence. Great. Counting or not counting gang violence. Great.
Oh my God.
Wait, Cody, go, run. Whoa. That's a lot of people you tell to run. All right, we're going to get started, everybody. You know how it works. Question and answer. Also, thank you to Lane from YRE5. That was great. Really appreciate it. And we're going to be here for a couple hours. Get comfortable. Bring the best libs that Utah has to offer.
Hit that like button and share this stream if you're not a beta male.
To come from men.
The lives of women will not change until the men get the opportunity to also examine and define and change their lives. In many ways, I sometimes think that the 20th century was the century where the women made all these massive changes, and the 21st century will be the changes that the men will make, partly in adaptation to the changes that the women have done.
And those men are doing something about it. They're saying, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm not getting married, or I'm divorced. They don't sit around just trying to live their life through women. They actually have lots of hobbies. They go out, they buy that land you were talking about. They're out there getting motorcycles. They're having a good time, and they're enjoying life without having to deal with the stress of the women and the society that tells them they have to have a woman in their life.
How would you feel? I mean, you're not going to feel that attracted to a woman or care to be loving towards her or romantic towards her. So this men going their own way is a reaction to that. I really think it's a rational reaction to that. Men are finally like, hey, we've given you all you want. You know, you are equal in every way, and then you're still shaming us.
All right, guys. Yeah, man. With great regret, guys, we just found out that Charlie Kirk has passed away. Charlie Kirk has passed away, sadly. And this is what it's come to, guys. This is what it's come to. We live in a world now where freedom of speech is being destroyed. Traditional men and women can't speak out. And this is what happens there when libertarians can't get their way. they take your life. Guys, I got my special guest. He's the one that told me about this breaking show. And Peaceful Life, man, give me your insight, man, on what's going on, man. This is Charlie Kirk passed away, man. This hurts, man.
Yeah, it's a sad situation, and I think I hope you can hear me clear, man. Salute to you, brother. I think it has more to do with silencing free speech and really limiting open-mindedness and a different opinion, because for so long these university campuses have been basically systematically programmed with a lot of this liberal ideology, far left-leaning gender ideology, so many different things. And I think to create a balance of opinion, regardless of which side of the aisle you want to hear opposing opinion to your point of view in a peaceful dialogue, which is, I think, what Charlie tried to do, is go around and say, hey, here's a different perspective. We can discuss this and disagree about it, but they're so used to controlling the narrative with censorship, with, all types of tactics systematically through the state, through using these large corporations, and controlling the narrative, to control the social programming, that anybody who pushes back against the common theme and narrative is basically seen as an enemy and treated like an enemy, which is sad. They want to silence.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. This parents' Peaceful Life to a lot of things that we talk about also, man, in dating relationships. When men speak out against the misgivings of modern dating and women, we are also equally silenced.
Yeah.
And the fact that Charlie Kirk lost his life, I don't even know what to think about, man. So much evil going on. You told me about the story, and it went from him being shot to he's dead. We're gonna get into it, but
we saw the hit on Twitter. Actually,
I saw the hit.
So graphic, man. I mean, that went. It looks like it went straight through. I thought it was his chest hit. The way he snapped back, I thought it was a chest hit.
Right. They shot him.
Apparently, it was his neck. I was like, oh.
Okay, man. So real quick, Peaceful Life. Hold tight, guys. This is a warning. I'm gonna play this clip. And thank you once again, Peaceful Life. Him and I wanted to cover this, but once again, guys, this is what happens when you live in a world where wokeism will destroy a person that has a opinion, an opinion that's different than theirs. No different than they tried to kill President Trump, man.
Well,
and it's frustrating because the same liberals that call themselves to be woke and tolerant, they're not tolerant. This man lost his life for this being a clarion caller and speaking what he believed in. You didn't have to agree with Charlie Kirk, but he didn't deserve to lose his life, man. And that's what it's come down to now. That's all you see now. It's evil everywhere and delusion at an all-time high. And Peaceful Life, I'm convinced not only is it mental illness, but it's also demonic. What's your take on that?
I totally agree. And I think what happens inevitably is that we're now seeing how it's frustrating to say. You see how really indoctrinated people are in their positions, whether politically, religiously, or whatever else, ideologically, to the point where anybody that has anything to say against what your belief system is, that means it has to resort in violence. That's right. Resort in you can't have a disagreement, respectfully disagree with people and go your own separate way. And that's the fundamental problem that I see right now, even with the society, even with us, even in men's content. You see so much of an effort is put to silence us, to shame us, there's so many people sent out, to do these hit jobs. They had a whole situation last year before the elections where they're targeting the manosphere on men's content.
Right.
And part of it is that it was affecting their bottom line, which is keeping men in this position of servitude, the constant attack on manhood and masculinity, emasculating and feminizing young boys. And it was a whole social order going on that's being disrupted by free speech and the internet, YouTube, Twitch, all these different platforms are disrupting the social programming, because now people are getting people giving their speech, free speech, people saying, giving an opposing opinion. When Elon took over Twitter, that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I mean, that was just
yeah, man. It's man, so much going on. My classmate, she died for innocent woman from a gunshot wound. I don't. Yeah, this must is demonic, man. I've never in my life seen so much evil. This proliferating back and forth, man.
Right.
A lot of it got to be demonic, man. But
yeah, it's crazy out here, man. You think about it, the depths for which somebody has to go to want to take a man out for just speaking his piece or just presenting an opinion, regardless of which side of the aisle you're from or on. You know, it's a sad situation. You know, you know, how do you really I don't know, man. You know, that you talk about a man that's married, that has wife, that has kids. I mean, his whole family. I mean, like today, those kids, their dad went out to, you know, take part in this event, and he'll never return tonight, and he will never see his kids again.
Yeah, you brought it to me, breaking news that my wife told me about, and I just found out a minute ago he's dead, man. I don't know how to process this, bro. I don't know how to process it, man. You know, we live in some dark times, man. And you know, I've never seen this. You know, people say it's the media, but no, it's not the media. Negative, dark events are happening back to back. The person that shot my classmate, they act flippant about it, man. And this is what happens where you have this liberal nonsense. You have liberals in the forefront. When you don't have strong masculine men, and nobody's damn being held accountable. And now Charlie Kirk has lost his life. So once again, guys, fair warning. This is a warning. Let me do this warning real quick, and me and Peaceful Life, I'm getting into it. Greetings. This is another topic of the Kosher Clinician that might be sensitive to some viewers. If you are sensitive to the topic at hand or the title provided in the show, please proceed with caution. You have been warned. Viewer discretion is advised.
Counting or not counting gang violence?
Oh my God. Wait, Cody, go, run. Holy.
So, Peaceful Life, man. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you.
What is your take on all this lawlessness, man? From Chicago to DC to now the death of Charlie Kirk, an influencer and a conservative commentator. What is your take on all this, man, and how it's going to impact, or if it could start some type of civil discourse, man, civil war?
Well, I don't think it will. It's just a matter of it really just it highlights a few different things. For instance, the Chicago situation, what it really shows is those individuals, regardless of their race, black, white, or whatever, they care more about what's good for the Democratic Party and pushing a liberal agenda than they care about the safety of kids.
Right.
Then they care about either destroying kids' lives with this gender stuff and whatever else. They care more about pushing that agenda. Because remember, he who feels it and lives it knows it. If you live in that neighborhood and you're, just say you're part of the working poor, and you don't have the resources to remove your family out of there, every day you walk down the street, your life is in jeopardy.
Right.
AOC and all the rest of them people, they gonna live on the rich side of town. They're not facing the fire. All these Fan Jones and Roland Martin, Roly Poly Roland, and all them people, they are multimillionaires. Barack Obama lives in Martha's Vineyard. They don't care about, kids walking by, drug addicts and people ODing on the ground and violence and all that stuff. Kids can't go nowhere. They don't care about that shit. Right. They got their money. So they don't care about it. All these liberal people, they got their money. So the people that are on, that's why they didn't push back so hard against Trump, because they live it every day. And any relief that they can get, whether it be the National Guard or whatever else, that can allow their kids to walk to school, not passing by some dude OD'd on the ground or not passing by some gang sad or whatever else, is a relief for the working poor in those communities, because the majority of people in those communities are not criminals. They're hardworking people. They just happen to be part of the working poor. They may not have the resources to get up the hell out of there. You know what I mean? and they don't. That's what's most disturbing about it.
Oh man, this is wow.
But they don't want people to be free. That's really what comes down to it. Is that they don't want people to think freely, think independently. Whether you agree or disagree with somebody, they don't want people thinking freely. They just don't like it. Free thinking, opposing opinions, things of that nature. They don't like it.
I still can't believe he's dead, man. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, it happened that quickly, man. They dropped him.
Yeah, man. I don't know how to process this, man. You being a former cop, man. What's your take on this senseless violence, man?
First of all, I think what inevitably happens is when you have a situation where you've been engulfed in this liberal nonsense with either government programs, government sponsorship, government's intervention in the family in terms of with the welfare state, these women raising these kids without, well, a lot of these women that have been generational welfare, having sex, having babies, raising these boys in an environment without their fathers. All this stuff adds up and creates a dysfunctional environment where you're just going to, it's like you're creating an environment that produces dysfunction and criminal behavior, because they try to, what the liberals do, especially the white liberals, and Malcolm X warned us about this, they conduct their experiments in the Black community. They use Black people as the test tube dummies.
I agree.
Whether it be for their gender experiments, look at Atlanta and those other places.
I agree.
And, they use the Black community as their testing grounds because, some of them still have the same old conservative old guards in there, even if they're liberal. It's like they're rebellion against their dad. And the Black people are like their little, pets to keep, let's try this gender issues on the Black people. Let's, all kinds of nonsense that they perpetrate against the Black community. And all with this, it's like trying to pretend that you're somebody's friend or you're out for them, but all you are is an apologist. Because is somebody your friend that doesn't demand that you perform at your best or get the best out of you? And that's not happening. You know what I mean? It's sickness. That's what really you see.
Shout out to my man Hashim Shabazz with a $2 super chat. Thank you, brother Hashim. And he said that Hashim Shabazz said they're demanding they think a man can be a woman. I totally agree. He was a young father, and now his kids have to grow up without a dad. I just want to take my fist and punch a hole in the wall, man. I like Charlie Kirk. I didn't have no problem. He was conservative. He was smart. But this man is gone, man. Like I said, man, my classmate just lost her life due to senseless gun violence. This goon shot her. He didn't mean to shoot her, but she's dead. The mother was just being flippant about it. And now Charlie Kirk. First, they tried to kill President Trump. Now they try. But see, you see who the real true purveyors of freedom of speech are. You see who the true purveyors of freedom of speech. It's definitely not some of these libertards, man. And it's so bad now, Peaceful Life, man, that men now, a lot of men are just becoming indifferent. They don't even pay a lot of this liberal mess don't any mind anymore. The beauty of Black families and tradition, the community is now gone. Right. And sadly, a lot of our women vote for the liberal nonsense, just like this fool that killed these kids in the Catholic school, man. Like I said, brother, I've never in my life seen so much insanity and so much foolishness, man. And I don't even know how to process his death. I'm gonna look at this video real quick and see what they were talking about Charlie Kirk after he lost his life. Let's look at this real quick. Hold tight.
She was at the event right now. She saw the attack. She's on the phone. Radon, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. If you could tell us where you were, what you saw, what happened.
Yeah, so I was clear up at the front. So they had the tent set up for where Charlie was going to be. And then they had the cattle grade set up with a walkway for the people that were going to debate him. And then I was the grate right behind it. So I was right by the walkway. So I was right up front.
And then what happened when the actual shot was fired? Where were you? What did you see or hear?
So I was. He was just talking to the second debater, And ironically, it was about the transgender shooter, and they're talking about not allowing them to purchase firearms. And he was talking back and forth with the guy, and then all of a sudden I hear up top, I see Charlie. I think it got his carotid. I just saw him grab. It looked like his neck, and there's just blood pouring out everywhere, and his eyes kind of rolled back. And at that point, I kind of looked up because it sounded like it came up from behind me up the hill. And it was just one pop. And then we all dropped to the ground. And then they told us all to run. So we all ran out.
And people like, this is all over the transgender shooter that shot those 2 kids and deleted them. And shot and injured 17, man. And this is the senseless nonsense that the libertarians never take accountability for. I've told you before, I'm not pro-Republican or pro-Democrat. I'm pro-policy and I'm pro-truth. And, the Bible talked about this, what happened in the last days. It says that in the last days, there will be lawlessness. And you being a law enforcement officer, man, have you ever seen the rise of lawlessness to the level that you see it now? You and I both worked in law enforcement. I worked in the prison system. You were a street cop. When you see this senseless lawlessness, and like Carnell Smith said, now it's getting so dangerous now, men like you and I got to be careful how we stand. Not that I'm scared per se, because I got some heat, but what do you think about when it comes down to your own safety and this the rise of lawlessness in general, man?
Well, I mean, obviously, people right now, especially with the second term of Donald Trump, you got to be careful. I mean, first of all, us as Black men in general, there's very few independent, free-thinking Black men. Because you look at the numbers for the election, 77% the Democratic Party, with women, 92% for Kamala Harris supporters. So realistically, anybody that has more of a libertarian, free-thinking, more conservative-leaning ideology and mentality is automatically shunned because you're not selling the victim narrative. You're not denying that racism exists. Racism exists. Systematic racism. It's racism that exists. But in many people's situations, that's not the reason why they fail individually. Most of the times it's their own action. But sometimes a lot of individuals like to hide behind this collectivist mentality, and they don't want to be held accountable. So the victim narrative sells very well in the Black community. That's why we have the Omars and all of them, because again, there's no profit in you not being a victim. So they're going to keep you in that victim state to keep getting money, keep getting paid. Just like some of these pastors, these preachers, these politicians, it's all about power and keeping them getting paid. And that's why you see so many of them get exposed. You see the Dr. Cheyenne Bryants, because sometimes Black people are intoxicated by these eloquent speakers who speak out their ass and they really ain't saying nothing. Right. So we're dealing with this situation in the community where there's a group of people that are maintaining power over the minds and mentality to exploit resources. And most of these people are filthy rich, with the exception of Omar, of course. They're getting paid.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Shout out to my man, James from NC. He said, I'm saddened to see how much some people are celebrating his passing. It's so sick. They are far left radical content curators gleefully celebrating on live broadcasts. But then let it be somebody else's peaceful life go and do the same thing to them. Right. And then they double down on their victimhood. But you celebrating the death of somebody that had a child all because he had an alternate opinion. They're some of the biggest hypocrites in the world, man. They're the biggest hypocrites in the world.
It's worse. But even with our own community, look at the women celebrate the death of Kevin Samuels.
Right.
Anybody that has an opposing opinion, whether it be masculine or whether it be objective, and guess what? He wasn't hiding. He sat up there on the stage and he challenged their belief system, and they had an ability to come and debate him. The guy who shot him could have come and debated him and have a conversation with him if he disagreed with him, and respectfully they could have debated, argued, made their points, agreed and disagreed. But he wasn't there, he didn't care about all that. He'd already been indoctrinated. He was ready to just take him out. He saw him as an enemy. and he wanted to send a message to anybody who practices free speech, who has an opinion, who has an agenda, or even an ideology that's separate from them. I see a lot of brothers too, a lot of people that go after guys like Charleston White, and they want to do this to him or do that. Or guys, anybody that speaks against just objectively honest truth, because nobody wants to hear the truth.
Nobody wants to hear the truth, right?
Yeah.
And theology said they will not love the truth in the last days, man. The theology said that. You got women that are speaking out against this nonsense. They call them mammies. They call them pygmies. They try to silence them. These women that put their neck on the line can show them hardcore evidence. You got educated black women. You got other therapists that call out the nonsense. You got other therapists like Jeff St. James and the beautiful sister Miss Stoudemire. They try to silence them too because this stuff is demonic. And it's a sign of the end days, man. I know a lot of folks don't believe it. They say, this world is wicked, man. And it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. Seems like after COVID, a portal opened, man.
Yeah, but they legitimately have been indoctrinated to hate men, to be honest with you. And it's even bad so that they were raised not to trust men either. They were raised that you can't trust a man. If you trust him, he'll abuse you and mistreat you, and men are evil and men are wicked. So even into this day, that's why so many of them are single now. And you couldn't get many of these women to be under the leadership of men because they were not raised to function in that way. They were raised to compete with men, to challenge men, to undermine men. And they're seeing men as the enemy, to be honest with you, and may see masculinity as the enemy. Masculinity is the enemy to them. They don't want no type of authority or leadership. They want to hand you responsibility, though. Or they'll hand you a truckload of responsibility, especially when shit hits the fan. But they don't want you to listen to what you got to say. We ain't trying to hear you. You know what I mean? But send your resources down here, down the street to us. And now we see it too. I hate to say it, Kosher, with how they've been coming at Gen Z. Gen Z young men have really turned more conservative, and really they need somebody to fund Social Security. They need somebody to fund all these leftover women. And if Gen Z men are checking out or they're not taking these careers and jobs and whatever, who's going to fund all these women? Who's going to create babies? Who's going to support the war machine? These kids are like, forget all this, man. I'm not taking part in any of this nonsense.
No, I agree. Shout out to my man, Scream at Your Boy, dynamic duo Kosher, clinician, A Peaceful Life 7 in peace. Yeah, I don't feel no peace today, man. My heart is sad, man.
Yeah, it was
sad.
A tragedy, man. But that tells you, man, how desperate they are to silence independent thought, free speech. And like I said, he's talking, he's up there, he's not hiding. He's not, he will debate you on your point and argue against it. And I'm surprised they haven't taken a shot at that fresh and fit guy, Marion Gaines, or anybody that gets on this campus. I'm surprised they haven't, because those are just liberal hotbeds of extreme wokeism. It's like, it's crazy, I don't even know how to process it, man. I'm extremely angry, man. Let's finish listening to this whole type, brother.
Yeah, I'm imagining pandemonium at that point. Did you see medical personnel attend to him, and what happened after that?
By the time I looked up, he was already off. He was already out. He was already out of the tent. There were some police officers up there. There was a security. There was no metal detectors or anything for us to go through. They didn't even check our tickets.
What about the gunman? Any sense of what became of the person? I don't know if it's a man or a woman. The person who fired the shot?
Nope, I didn't see anything. I just dropped when everybody else dropped, and then I ran when they told everybody to run.
So you described it as a debate that was going on. So it was a debate between Charlie and someone else, or just a sort of a...
Yeah, so he does prove me wrong. And basically, because he's a right-winger. And, he's very, very, very good at his debates. And he invites mostly college kids to go up and debate him. And, a lot of them were, had a lot of the same views, but there was something that may be a little bit off that they don't quite agree with. So they're just trying to, debate him back.
What's your worst experience, man, you've had with these libertarians, man?
You can't talk to them. You're wasting your time. They're indoctrinated. That's like trying to talk to a feminist, or trying to talk to unless they experience pain, suffering, or a complete slamming in the face. Like their ideology they have to slam in the face with realism. I hate to say it, but it's almost like some of these women, they don't feel until they start getting up there in age, and they regret all the men and they disrespected back in the day. When they get old, they'd be like 60 and stuff like that. Unfortunately, for many of them, they don't really. It's like that Canadian police chief who basically is telling the citizens to cooperate with criminals who break into your house. You know what I mean? Like their mindset, their mentality believe that criminals deserve hugs and all this type of nonsense. So you should just be open-minded, and they're poor. They're just misunderstood. And or they'll see a crazy dude like the dude who murdered the young lady on the bus, the crazy dude recently.
Yeah, right, in Charlotte.
He's a murderer in Charlotte. Yeah, that guy. I don't care what his issue is. I don't want to hear nothing about insanity, death penalty.
Yeah, I agree.
You have these people running around on the streets, and many of them are dangerous. If you're a danger to the public, to kids, to women, to ordinary everyday citizen, as long as it's within the process and procedures of the law, you got to get those people out of there. You know. And you can't just have people just running around recklessly, dangerous to the public, as a system or society with no law and order. And it affects the very people that people say they want to protect, because it affects their freedom, it affects their comfort. They're living in terrorism. You can't walk down the street. You can't walk up and down the street. You got people doing all kinds of criminal activity in your environment. That's affecting the everyday ordinary citizen in those communities, and it's definitely affecting the lives of the kids.
Yeah, a piece like man, I really don't know how to process this, man. So much death, from my mother's death to classmates dying. My classmate, she just passed away. There, Charlie Kirk. And you don't have to agree fundamentally 100% with Charlie Kirk. Like I said, Charlie Kirk was a brilliant debater. I'm not pro-left, but I'm definitely not pro-left, and I'm not 100% pro-right either, because but you don't see conservatives killing liberals. You tell me how many conservatives that try to attempt to kill a liberal. You let me know. I haven't seen it.
Well, most of the conservatives think liberals are crazy, but I think that they're more comical than anything else. But only thing I disagree with the right-wing guys on is this idea that you can save these 304s. Hey, hold on a second, okay? Let me take this call real quick, all right?
All right, okay. All right, man. Yeah, it is, guys, like being in the cult. I agree with you 100%, Red Falls. It's like being in the cult. Yep. I agree with you 100%. It's definitely like being in the cult.
Forth on their views versus his.
So it sounds like people from all points on the political spectrum. What about the atmosphere, the mood? What was it like leading up to that?
Oh, man, we were all having fun. We were shouting, USA and Charlie Kirk, and listening to some, 80s music like Queen and that, and just stuff to pump you up. We're just all having a good time. Yeah, like a festival kind of atmosphere. I want to ask you about security. What was that like as you entered this area? And what kind of area is this? There was none. It was like, so when you walked in there, it was like a kind of in the crevice of the buildings with a bridge across it. And then behind it was like a grassy open area with a little bit of sitting that's kind of in a stadium seating. But it was like a little hill.
And this is on the campus of Utah Valley University.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a student there, or do you have an affiliation with the university?
No, I'm old. I'm in my 50s, so a lot of these people were college-age students, but there was quite a few, actually, I would say, that were around my age, too.
Yeah. And where did you get out? You ran out of there. Where'd you go, and what did everybody else do who was with you?
We all just ran to our vehicles, and I don't know where everybody's scattered. I don't know if, some of them were students that, had to catch a bus or whatever. But the ones that have cars, we all ran to our cars. I mean, I parked a little ways away, so it was a little bit of a trek, but it was fine.
But again, interesting, as you point out, no security, open area right there at Utah Valley University. Right on, Dasheen, I really appreciate your insight and your telling us your story. We thank you for that.
All right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our windows were so old and just desperately needed to be replaced.
Yeah, man, I don't know what to think about this, brother.
Well, I mean, to most of those people, especially those liberals, they're going to be celebrating that guy getting, somebody losing their life because you disagree with them, and that's the fundamental problem. You're dealing with people that have these deep spiritual crisis within themselves to celebrate the death of a man because you disagree with his opinion. Not that he's out here harming anybody by committing crime or doing anything else. You just don't like what he says. There's plenty of people I don't like what they say. I don't wish any harm to them because there's something mentally wrong with you if you're sitting around wishing harm to people you don't disagree with. And that's the fundamental problem that you see many times in this country.
And we hope to learn some updates as they're trying to compile some more of that information to get out.
Yes.
A second event.
Yeah, man. I don't know what's happened to this country, brother. People are demonic. They don't have no. The Bible's talked about lawlessness, talked about people being lovers of self, man. And for people just to sit back and be careless about the death of Charlie Kirk, man, I don't even know how to respond to it. Like I said, brother, I've never in my life seen this amount of evil. I've never seen it.
You look at the situation, even in the community, right? Remember the brother that was sitting in his car, and the young bucks shot him up trying to grab his chain. I don't know what his history was or whatever, but you're going to have a situation in the community where, like a community like Chicago, where you have 47 people shot, and I think 7 died in the weekend, and because there's a certain black on black violence, they don't, liberals don't care about that stuff. They can care less. They keep it going because it doesn't follow into the political agenda. They're not concerned about the young men growing up in that community. They don't care. They care about winning elections. They care about keeping certain people voting a certain way. They're not trying to improve the environment themselves. Like Red Falls Black City, when Kevin Samuels passed away, they celebrate the man's death. Again, he was probably the last hope because he actually tried to help the women, as opposed to these panda bears like the Derek Jacksons or the Ace Metaphors or any of these other guys that are out here in that space just really telling lies. And again, they don't want truth. They don't like it. They only want to be pandered to. They want to stay in their little, they're hoping that, I'm glad we have this conversation today because I think a lot of, when they see a lot of people with our complexion that don't believe the same, the black community is not a monolith. We have our own mentality and individuality.
Right.
We're not with that nonsense. Most black people are more, I didn't say Republican, but more conservative minded.
Right.
It's just that, we're dealing with a situation where we have a matriarchal culture and the women tend to lean towards abortion rights and women's empowerment more than anything else. And I think that they have taken the control of their community with the assistance of the government, and I think that's the fundamental problem. Or even people that stoke racial fears to get control of a community,
Like I said, man, I don't know how to process it, man. My heart is going out to him, man. You don't have to agree with his ideology, but you don't have to agree with his ideology, man. But
yeah.
But
well, everybody, like I said, again, people have certain opinion about certain things. At the end of the day, where does it stop? With a lot of the violence, with a lot of the issues, where people cannot disagree respectfully without a resort to violence. At the end of the day, like I can see somebody says, I don't like what they say, or I have a certain feeling about what they say, but it don't mean you got to harm them.
Right.
Where does this come from? Where you just say, all right, I don't like what you say, or I think I might think a person even a degenerate for what they say. But so what? This is America. He's saying something. What is he doing other than running his mouth? If that's what all the person's doing is running their mouth, you know, what are we? We're mushy. We're soft now. People can't have an opinion. You don't like their opinion. I see YouTube videos on YouTube. I don't agree with them. I just change the channel. Who cares? You know, I switch the channel. Switch. And that's the thing about being censorship. I get on Twitter X. There's people that post videos. I don't like them. I just hit block the video. Don't need to see it. Don't want to receive any more content from this channel. Who cares? Well, that's their opinion. You know, people have free thought, free will, and you can use your own discernment to decide what you believe, what you listen to or not. But the idea that you're going to be like, okay, I don't like what they're saying, and I want to do harm to them. You know, that's on some weird, you know, emotional nonsense. Really, it's insanity, to be honest with you. And again, that's what we've come as a society. But there's a whole lot of issues that are going on that are being overshadowed, you know, especially in those inner cities, especially in certain communities, that many people, especially those on the left, don't want to consider or don't want to bring to the forefront because, you know, you ask yourself the question, if you've been doing something, the same thing over and over again, and the community is not getting any better, when are you going to do something that's going to help fix those environments, as opposed to having people live in that dangerous environment year after year after year? You know, that's the problem. You know, they're not doing anything to solve the problem.
Well, you know, the only time a person should lose their life is if you try to take somebody's life, you should lose your life. Yeah, if Charlie Kirk was a supremacist, I don't think he was a supremacist. He was conservative, but you don't have to agree with that man. But the man should have never lost his life. If somebody tried to shoot, if Charlie Kirk tried to shoot somebody, and the other person shot him trying to defend himself, then Charlie Kirk deserved to die. But I don't care who it is. No man or woman should lose their life based on their opinion. But see, you know, black folks now are so damn tied up into skin politics, man. And, you know, black folks weren't one when we were in Africa. We became one because of the struggle. Right. But some of these black folks, because they look like me, all black folks ain't my kinfolk. We were never one. We were never one in Africa. We became one because of the struggle. But nowadays, nobody wants to be held accountable for nothing. You know, we got all these kids having children out of wedlock. You got all these bums getting all these women knocked up, these women giving their cat to any and everybody. I don't represent those kind of black people. I rock with black people like you, educated and talented, a man that got some sense and trying to raise his boys to be successful. That's the kind of brothers I deal with. Right. But the foolishness you see now, man, it's crazy, man. It's foolishness on steroids, man. And, you know, now because of so many communities and families being destroyed, you can't tell folks nothing anymore. Let's finish this. Look at this real quick about Hotep.
The room. Yeah, they closed all the doors down, and then we were just told that nobody. We're on lockdown situation. There's an active.
Where Mike Stephen is, and there's no movement.
Neck just bleeding, and so we didn't know, and we just ran and got out of there. But it was a blessing to get out safe, and you know, yeah.
Just how was it like when everything happened? I know you said that your sister was a little bit away from you. Was it scary not knowing what had happened?
Yeah, no. After I was like, I'm okay, I instantly went to my sister. I'm like, where's my sister? Started.
What do you think the backlash is going to be? I want you to hold your point, but on listening to this, then tell me what you think the backlash is going to be. Hold tight.
Screaming for my sister, and we ran inside, and we were running up and down the halls, and it was just like, what is going on? Why isn't everyone running? Why are we getting out of here? But I had found my sister, and I just knew if I made sure she was safe, that everything would be okay. So that was probably my one thought that was driving me then. But yeah.
What you still have the adrenaline still pumping? Like, have you been able to digest everything, or are you still just kind of, this is so surreal?
Yeah, no, it's a little surreal. Like, especially then, it felt like a dream. I'm like, this isn't real. And but I've been called by multiple friends, family, so I've been able to talk about it and just kind of process it, and just a lot of support right away, and seeing all the other students around campus praying with each other, just crying with each other, because it's gonna last for a minute. But yeah.
So you heard one shot. You said you might have seen some gun smoke, and just you saw him get hit. Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you hear the pop, and I just saw the blood gushing, and in my head I saw some smoke right there, and it wasn't very loud. I thought it was a balloon or something, but it was. They grabbed him, and he kind of fell back in his seat, and it was a little weird, but yeah.
And then let's go over here to Tegan. You were working. You just saw kind of the.
Do you think there's going to be any backlash, man, from some of these radical conservatives, man? And if so, tell me.
I don't think there's going to be. I think that they just made a martyr of they really. The reality is the fact that they just made a martyr out of Charlie Kirk, and they proved him right.
Mm-hmm.
In doing that, it sends a message that what he's saying is having a tremendous effect on the young people. It may not happen momentarily or in the short term, but over the long term, they're going to start saying, why are they so eager to silence him? He's sitting there. He's having a debate. I may not disagree with him, but what is the eagerness to them to silence him? And they made him honor him. It's just like, when guys who say things like a Kevin Samuels pass away, they didn't really have an opportunity to destroy his image or destroy his likeliness or destroy him as a man. And his message resonates and continues on. So Charlie Kirk, they're not going to respond to him because at the end of the day, all of their agenda is being pushed. So they really don't, a guy like Trump is delivering on his promises in terms of what he said he would do for the electorate that voted him into office. So it's really another sign for those people on that side that they're winning or they're winning the debate or winning the argument. They just really just solidified what the right has been saying by doing what they're doing, by behaving in that way. You're saying that what he's saying is true. But they'll try and spin it in all kinds of different ways and whatever else. But when you take extreme action, you prove their point. Right. It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It is crazy, man. Hold tight. Let's see, where is that?
After people coming out, just talk to me and walk me through what you saw and heard.
Yeah, so I was working an event on campus, and I was in the hallway that led directly to where the courtyard was, and all of a sudden I just saw this massive mob of people running towards us, and there were people screaming, there were people crying. It was very, like he said, very surreal and heartbreaking. And people just started saying, like, get him out, and because I was wearing a name tag and like a uniform, someone came over to me and was like, we need your help getting everyone evacuated. So I just started getting people out of the building as much as I could. And then at one point, there was this family that came up to me, this woman, and she told me that her son was trapped in a room. Two of her sons were trapped in a room by themselves. One was 11 and the other one was younger. And they couldn't get out, and she refused to leave campus until she was reunited with them. So it took a while, and we had to go talk to a lot of people, work with the police, but finally we were able to track someone down with the key to open up the door, and we reunited the family, and they were able to leave. So that was a silver lining amidst the tragedy of the event.
What about you? Just how are you feeling? Is adrenaline still pumping for you? You're still trying to process everything?
Yeah, for sure. I think these things take time to process. It was interesting in the moment. I feel like my emotions kind of shut off, and it was more so like, okay, how do we get everyone out? How do we help people be safe? And then it wasn't until I got back to my apartment and saw one of my friends who was also there that I kind of just collapsed into his arms. We both just started sobbing. So how could something like this happen?
And now, you were standing here when we heard the president confirm that Charlie did die. Just what are your guys' reactions to that, Gavin?
It's sad. He has a family, and I've watched his content for a while, and he's a caring guy, and just you don't think stuff like this happens in Utah. You don't think it happens at your school, and then it does, and it's life-changing. But
Piece of life, when you think about all this social upheaval, the advent of AI, mass layoffs, it seems like it's hitting us in the mouth. How do you process all of this, man?
Well,
what do you do to process it?
It really comes to a point where, you start thinking about, you think about it like this. It makes me think more about the family. And here's why I say that. Because one of the protections that individuals used to have was the nuclear family and extended family. Whether it be back from the sharecropper time or from the times when people owned land and had farms and had animals and whatever else, or grew certain crops and whatever else, there was always something to fall back on. You know, somebody loses a job, you can kind of redirect them here and redirect them there. And there was always a mechanism of survival. But now in this modern era, since, you know, they've really done everything systematically to destroy families, where we've made, you know, a situation where people don't really have, you know, people to fall back on, or situations or systems in place to fall back on. Maybe there's a house that's owned on the land, or something else that you can go to, or somewhere, or you can return to this location or whatever else. And that comes from having strong families. And again, I think that's, you think deeply, how many things were done to destroy the nuclear family, to weaken people, weaken society itself, and make us all just slaves, corporate slaves, or just commuting back and forth to work every day, you know, feeding the machine of capitalism. And they've created that for us. So when AI comes in, I think ultimately learning new skills and learning recession-proof skills or whatever else, and things that are always in demands, those things are factors too. But the reality is that the family knit is where I think where the greatest failure is for us as a society, because that protection is gone.
Right.
You know, we don't have that nuclear family, especially in the Black community. I mean, it's bad, man.
It's gone, man. It don't even exist, man. It don't even. It's all but non-existent, man.
Yeah. So you know, like where is dad? You know, dad's somewhere roaming around, and then even don't have that situation of generational wealth, or where many times people pass away, people doing fundraisers and whatever else to bury them and whatever else. So that family structure, or the weakening of the family, is where you see the crisis, or certain crises becomes 10 times worse. And that's what the problem. And then we live in a heavily debt society, especially with inflation the way it is. You can go to a time period where there's always a paid off house. There's always a paid off house somewhere where somebody can go back to, or stay if they needed to, or you can put up a little house here or there. That world is gone. Housing's expensive. In fact, they were about to call a housing emergency crisis on interest rates. For people to afford to buy. Well, be honest with you, the prices are kind of high. So, it's like, you can't. It is what it is. But we've gotten to this point in inflation. We've gotten to this point in society, especially with the removal of some of these programs, that you're going to see hardship. It's going to get harder before it gets better.
Yeah, no. I agree. Shout out to my man, Revelation Spirit of Indifference, with that $5 cash out, man. Let's get back into it, man. And thank you once again, brother, for telling me about this. I'm still mortified.
There's a lot of hope. We're really blessed to live in this community, and there's a lot of hope and a lot of faith that will help us all get through this. And so,
what about you? What are your thoughts on the news that he did die?
Over and over in my head, all I can think is there is no place in our world for political violence. It is devastating what happened, and it cannot be repeated. And we have to work to create a community that is more willing to communicate, because violence isn't the answer. We have to collaborate on these issues. No matter if we disagree, no matter what side of the aisle we are a part of, we need to collaborate.
Peaceful Life, you and I have talked about how many liberals use race as a tool to continue to push division.
Right.
What's your assessment on how they use or more radicalized race to push division and also keep us in a state of victimhood?
Well, because here's the thing about it. We all agree that racism exists.
Right.
Racism has been here. Racism is not going anywhere. The problem is that when you look at things from an individual perspective, individual outcome and individual success, many times, what I've seen in my life have nothing to do with racism. There's racism that happened to individuals at moments in times, but most of the times, individuals themselves, most of the times that they don't do well or have issues is because of their own actions. Now, when it comes to the community itself, what has happened because of the racial history and the racial past, a certain individual have used that against their own community to, catapult themselves into positions of power and make themselves lead. Because remember, there's no profit in you not being a victim.
Right.
So if you use racial concerns, racial fears, racial issues, and you manipulate the narrative and make yourself to be a savior of those individuals, like you're fighting for them, like you're representing them. Many people, especially those people that are not going to do the research, not going to do the homework, not going to see the agenda that you're pushing, and those individuals, see what you do is, even we see it now, you make an excuse for individuals as to why they're not getting the outcomes that they want. If you create this perpetual narrative of victimhood, the reason why you're not getting the results you want is because of racism, of because you're a victim, of because the system is stacked against you. And if that person doesn't want to do the work as an individual, then they're going to rely on that escape route to really justify why they're not getting the outcomes that they want. And we see a lot of that all the time. But when you ask individual questions, okay, you was presented with this opportunity. Why didn't you take that? Well, why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? You find out most people are full of shit.
Right.
The truth of the matter is, if you give a certain people a way out where they don't have to be accountable for their own efforts, they're going to take it. They're going to take it, and people people make a lot of profit off of that shit, man. You talk about from pastors, from everybody else. People make a lot of profit off of racism. Victimhood and racism is very profitable,
right?
Very profitable, especially if you're an eloquent speaker.
Yeah. And someone asked a question, accurate. He said, well, why is racism a topic on Charlie Kirk's shooting? Well, it's simple. White liberals, in the context of victimhood, use racism as a conduit. Just like white liberals, and listen, just like white liberals more or less will use the killing of Charlie Kirk as a justification. When you think about politics and the political worldview, I don't care if I'm not Republican or Democrat. I'm just apolitical. They happen to be conservative when they come down to policy. But many times they would justify taking a man's life based on what was said or what he said in the past about anything that was controversial. And I stand 10 toes down. No man should lose his life for having an opinion. You don't have to agree with it. But this man had children. He had babies. He had a wife. If Charlie Kirk tried to take somebody's life, then he deserved to lose his life. But if he didn't try to take someone's life, he does not deserve to die, man. And that's what we're seeing now. When people get in their feelings, they want to be vigilantes and take the law into their own hands. Go ahead, man.
No, I think one of the reasons why I saw a comment earlier. Somebody said that Charlie Kirk was basically described him as somebody who had certain ideologies that align with white supremacist ideology or something like that, which I think is absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
I have listened to Charlie Kirk. I disagree with him on certain points.
Right.
But I think that I didn't see anything that Charlie Kirk said from a logical perspective. And if I'm being fair and balanced, that would make me believe that he had any extreme views towards anybody of any minority or any color. I didn't see any of that.
Right.
So here's the thing about life. I can disagree with somebody and have a conversation without calling them a name.
Right.
I want to know why you think what you think and why you believe what you believe without calling you a name, without getting offended, because I can intellectually have a conversation with another grown man without calling him a name. And that's the fundamental flaw we see, that people who think different from us, we have to have a label on them so that we can put them in a category so we no longer have to listen to them.
Right.
So that's why the conversations about race or races come into it, because Charlie Kirk has an opinion that some people, many people who look like me or many white liberals disagree with. You know, I can have a conversation with a guy like Charlie Kirk because I can challenge him on an intellectual level.
Right.
So I'm not offended by anything he says. I'm not even offended by what racists say.
Right.
So because I'm not intimidated by them intellectually. You know, right. I can have a conversation. You know, it's like most racist people are just morons anyhow. So it just really, you listen to them talk enough that most of the stuff they say don't even make no sense. You know.
No, it doesn't make any sense. And like I said, man, I didn't think he was going to die, man. But the fact that you told me he was shot, I thought he was going to recover. But
no, I saw it. I was like, I thought he was hitting the chest, but he got hit in the neck. I was like, oh man,
yeah.
It's like, nah, man.
It's happened, people get hurt, and this should never happen in our community, in our world.
Well, just the shock that's happening here at UVU, at your school. I mean, we've talked with a lot of people where he has done this a lot of different campuses, and I'm sure a lot of people thought, UVU would come just like those ones. But to happen here, just how shocking is that for you?
It's super shocking. You think we're a more conservative crowd. We got lots of BYU kids coming down, and so there's a lot of support. Didn't seem like there was many people protesting against what he was saying, but that it could happen here. And definitely, I'm a freshman here at UVU, so I'm still new to the school, and I'm getting used to everything. So it was just like, this is my school from now on. But
and just lastly, what are your thoughts on this happening here at UVU?
It's heart-wrenching. I think we as a school and as a student body work really hard to make it a safe place, a place of belonging. We have a lot of third spaces. People don't feel like they quite fit in the community. I think it's a beautiful place, and the fact that something.
How would you respond to Davo, man? We're gonna end this stream in a minute or two. I got to get back, but what do you say with Davo about? So let me answer, and then I'll let you answer. Piece of life. Let me answer, and then I'll let you answer.
Go ahead.
I understand where Davo is coming from because there have been some conservatives that have more or less been veering towards the rhetoric that sounds white supremacist.
Right.
But that still does not justify taking that man's life. It don't justify it. Once again, if he try to take somebody else's life, that'd be a fair argument. What would you say to Davo?
I would say to Davo that when it comes to white supremacy, the question is, what is that individual saying that would suggest white supremacy? Or what are they doing actively?
Well, he said white supremacy in his comments, but listen, there are black conservatives. Okay.
Well,
you and I might believe in some peaceful life, and we might not, but there might be people that can attach themselves to us, but we don't fundamentally agree with their talking points. Give me an example. Let's say you and I, we believe in male sovereignty, and we believe in red pill, and we believe in the manosphere. But then there might be an outlier to say that all women should be deleted. We don't believe in that, but because some of our views are centered, then they might attach themselves to our worldviews. Do you see my point?
I see your point, absolutely. Well, here's my thing. I think that white people who are apologists for black people are white supremacists.
Right.
In my opinion, because what they do is they create an environment of mediocrity. I think individuals that put out music that are destructive to the black community are white supremacists. I think that liberal ideology that destroys the community, that creates an environment of single motherhood, that creates an environment where young men are raised without their fathers, that created an environment for high murder rates and killing, and the genocide of black people are white supremacists. I think individuals that promote abortion in our community that has taken out 30 million black people are white supremacists. Those are white supremacists to me. I think those who engaged in gangster rap, those who promote mediocrity in the black community, whether it be the Glorillas of the world, are white supremacists.
Right.
Because that those who promote the absolute death and destruction of black people.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a black person like me and be a white supremacist. So white supremacist is not just a white person that we disagree with. A white supremacist could be a black person that or liberal white person that apologizes for black mediocrity. If you're making excuses for black people and why they can't do what they're supposed to do and do the right things and be responsible, then you're a white supremacist. You know, that's the reality. You know, they want people, these people are destructive to black people. They're apologists, they make excuses for black people, they promote mediocrity in the black community. They don't care about the single mother rate. They don't care about the crime and destructions in the black community. Charlie Kirk is not contributing to the destruction of the black community. If anything, liberal ideology destroys the black community because it creates an environment that destroys family and destroys community. It's just the way it is. People refuse to say it. They refuse to deal with it. I don't see those individuals as threats to anybody of any race, you know.
Darwin said that's deflected from Charlie Kirk, but yes, white liberals and black liberals are white supremacists too.
I will address this right here. Can you put me up a little bigger picture? Dago, can you open up? Can you open up for a bigger picture?
Oh, okay, hold on.
I want to address this. He said, most black people are unalive, unarmed black people are unalived by cops and liberals. So nonsense. I was a cop for 22 years. I have not seen one black person in my 22 years being unalived from my department. None. I've seen a lot of people arrested. A lot of people got injured. But as far as a police shooting involving killing innocent black people, I have not seen that in my department in my years. I'll tell you what happens. A black person has about a 1 and maybe, what's the number? 1 in 1.5 million chance of being shot by a cop. Now, you got to look at statistics and data. The chances of you being killed is usually by another black person. Look at the statistics. The research is there. Because of the high crime rate in the black community, we have to deal with the threats that exist first. And the first one is chronic liberalism. Getting in bed with these liberals has destroyed the family. That's removed the fathers. The fathers are the ones that have been removed. Most of them, you try to turn them into girls. You try to turn them into women. You're trying to turn our community into a bunch of homosexuals and transgenders. You've destroyed the family. You've destroyed the men. You've tried to replace men with welfare state. You guys are a bunch of freaking bottom-feeding, low-life bastards. You apologize for black people. You support mediocrity. You make excuse for all this sexual liberated when black people do horrible things to each other. You people are degenerates, man. You need to leave black people alone, man, and go away from black people, because all you do is use black community as your social experiment and spread your freaking filth and degeneracy.
Yeah. You know, I worked in law enforcement like you did too. I wasn't a street cop, but I did work in and listen, once again, we know the racism exists, but everything ain't racism. Some of this stuff is self-inflicted, man. When you have a bunch of bastard kids by multiple men and you support agendas that are counterintuitive to black folks. Let me tell you what I've seen, man. When I worked in the school system and worked as a behavior support teacher, when some of the black kids are getting in trouble, you know what they would do to justify their nonsense? They would say it was racist. Yeah. But it wasn't racist. Everything ain't racism. But my whole point is, we know that, like you said, we know racism does exist. I'm sure we've experienced it either subtly or overtly. But like I said, there are radical people that might attach themselves from some of our talking points, but we don't agree with those people. You can't choose who might attach themselves to talking points. Right. I don't know if Charlie Kirk has ever said anything that would be. I understand what Davos was saying about white supremacists being in the comments, and that's a fair assessment about if white supremacists in the comments. Then Charlie Kirk might support those opinions, but that's not necessarily fair, because there are people that distance themselves from people that are radicals. Once again, there are people in the manosphere that are radical. There are some, but the average manosphere, there's a working class guy that wants a good woman and a good life. How would you respond to that? And then we're going to end this.
Well, no, I totally agree. But what I would say to guys like that is, somebody on the south side of Chicago is not worried about white supremacists. They're not. somebody in Houston or in the certain parts of the neighborhood are not worried about white supremacists. If anything, liberalism is the white supremacy that has caused those community to be ran down the way that they are. And I would say this for a fact from being in these communities, policing these communities, the majority of people in these communities are the working poor. It is liberalism that is the white supremacy. And Malcolm X warned us about it. He warned us about white liberals. When you drink from that poisonous point fountain they have a problem with their daddies. And they use black people or the black community as a rebellion against their fathers. Maybe their fathers was a right-wing conservative. Maybe he was a certain way. Maybe he was a racist. But because he was you hated him, that's no reason to bring your mediocrity to the black community and be apologists over there and create this environment of mediocrity. You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Like I said, man.
They want a bunch. Do you know what they like? They hate black men like me. They want us to be all woke and liberal and white supremacy. When you got like the kids in the black community can't even walk down the street. The old people can't come out and eat because the spawn of all these single moms is destroying the community. They don't care about that shit. The black people walking, you're walking these communities. Someplace you can't even walk because the junkies are all laid out.
Right.
They're laid out in these communities. They're overdosing everywhere. They're putting the drug clinics right in the black community, right around the corner from a drug set. You know, it's ridiculous, man. You know,
like I said, man.
They dump all their mess. Even when they was doing the immigrant stuff, they was sending kids home in New York City, taking over their schools, putting immigrants in the classrooms, so the kids had to be homeschooled.
Right.
So they take all of their mess and dump it in the black community. Anytime they put a drug clinic in the black community, what are they doing? After these communities in the suburbs do their fair share of programs, what a lot of black people don't know, they will send all of their drug addicts to the inner city. And that's why you have all these homeless people defecating on the sidewalks, urine everywhere, piss everywhere in those communities, because now you have a person trying to get off drugs and they're right next to a drug set. So you basically brought the customer right to the cellar. How are they ever going to get off of heroin? I don't know. It makes no sense. But the people are laid out. I remember when I used to work, man, Marlon, the thing that used to break my heart the most is you would see some like 6, 7, 4, 5, I mean, that's a 5, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old kids walking to school. And then you have some homeless person laid on the ground, overdose or leaning off like this.
Right.
And you can't, and it becomes like you look at Kensington, you can't lock up all these people.
Right.
In one day. And you have these black kids being traumatized every day, walking by these people that are doing things, defecating in public, it's a lawless environment.
It's lawless, right. It's very lawless, man.
And they're traumatizing black kids on this liberal nonsense. And it's terrible. And I used to see that. I used to be so enraged. You know, you can grab a couple of them, throw them in cuffs, and you know what they did? They did the bail reform.
Mm-hmm.
When they did bail reform, nobody got locked up.
Right.
They go to video conference call, and you got to the point where you lock somebody up, and like an hour or two later, man, the dude is walking down the street, kosher. He's walking down the street, kosher, and he's hitting you with the middle finger like this. The dude is hitting you with the middle finger, kosher.
Right.
After you just locked him up 2 hours ago. You take a crazy person to the hospital, and they call what I call the turn your back, where the nurses and the doctors will turn their back like this, and they see the dude walking out the hospital, and you see that's why you see sometimes you go to some of these inner city, you see a guy standing on the block in a robe. That's a walkout. You know, he didn't get any help. He and they don't want him in crisis. So you're dealing with these problems over and over again. And it's all, in these communities, and that needs to change, because I think what's happening now, even when you see what's going on with Chicago, people are living in terror.
They are, right.
Come on, you can't live like that. Not in America.
Right. I agree with you, brother. They are living in terror, man. Before I let you go, man, thank you for telling me about the mass shooting. I mean, not mass shooting, the death of, well, sadly, the death of Charlie Kirk, man. I don't know. Yeah, man. It's like I said, man. I just lost a classmate. She was a principal. She got hit by a straight bullet, but the fact that the 17, 18-year-old had a gun is problematic. And I don't know, man. You call yourself a peaceful life, man, but all this darkness in the world, man. I mean, what is it doing to you psychologically before I let you go?
I mean, at the end of the day, man, what I do many times is I shut off the media. I don't process because there's nothing you can do about it. And I think what's inevitably them shooting Kirk is only makes him a martyr. That's the stupidest thing you want to do. You're proving his point by shooting him, and that's by harming him. First of all, it's disturbing. I mean, you destroyed a man's life for an opinion that you disagreed about, and now his kids will grow up without him and whatever else. And you see the same thing that happens in the black community. The black community, they will delete somebody and their life is not worth anything. That they will literally destroy another human being's life. Life has no value or no meaning.
Has no value.
And every day you hear, certain amount of people died in Philly, certain amount of people died in Chicago or Oakland or anywhere, Memphis or anything else like that. And it's like it doesn't even matter to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because you treat them like it's just disposable. Like that, like there's no care in the world to put a stop to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the system that they have to that it breeds more criminals. The system that currently exists breeds more criminals. And unfortunately, I mean, it's going to stop now to attrition with the elimination of the welfare state as it reduces. I mean,
right.
People are going to have to make better decisions, and it is what it is, brother.
Well, listen, I got to run, man. We're catching the back end, man. Guys, once again, shout out to my brother, Peaceful Life. Charlie Kirk has been assassinated. Charlie Kirk has been assassinated. And it just keeps getting darker and darker, man. The only thing I can say is the old saints used to say, Lord Jesus, come quickly. Because this world is jacked up, brother. And it's getting worse by the minute. But anyway, thank you, brother, for tuning in. Peaceful Life, guys. Go support Peaceful Life. I'll see you guys soon, guys. We're about to sign off. And once again, shout out to my brother, Peaceful Life. And the guys, thank you to your comments. We're going to end the stream, guys. Thank you for tuning in.
Fire. Clinician. Aside to become the kosher clinician, the story and the war cry behind the kosher clinician was similar to some of the struggles and the things that I've been through as a man. And some of you men are still going through that right now. There's a philosophical term called an existentialist crisis. Basically what that means is that you begin to ask yourself the question, why am I existing? What is the purpose of my existence? And I think that's the story of a lot of men that have not been more or less raised or under the tutelage of masculine men. One of the greatest indictments, guys, about the manosphere is that people assert and assume that the manosphere preaches misogyny and hate. But the manosphere is not responsible and was created a silo as an affront to women or black women. But the manosphere was a response to the pain and suffering that many black men were going through and continue to go through as we speak now. Once again, Jericho, we are going through an existential crisis. Our country is in trouble. Some of you are in trouble, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And you're not ready to move to higher ground until you get the requisite help that's going to help you become the better version of yourself.
Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician. All right.
There it is.
All right.
Now hit it for me.
And it ain't culture. 7 in hell is what they taught you. We'll put them, and you can back up in young dose. Culture. Clinician.
All right, stop that. All I want you to say is, if it ain't something, it ain't kosher. Say that first, okay?
All right.
All right, you ready?
Start over?
Yeah, started.
No. Okay, if it ain't something, it ain't kosher, and...
If it ain't seven, it ain't culture.
Okay.
Heaven and hell is what they taught you.
Okay, perfect. Do that again, but give me a little attitude. If it ain't seven, it ain't culture.
All right.
Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
And action.
Young heads picking back up in young dolphin. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician. That was cool.
If it ain't seven, it ain't culture. Heaven and hell, that's what they told you. Real men put the strap down and we can toss them. Young heads picking back up in young dolphins. This is our culture. Now we talking kosher. Clinician, masculinity issues. Asking fathers who miss you. Mama drama don't kiss you. All a part of the ritual. This is how they get you. Separate the men, women clipping babies pretend to. Damn. Lovers, haters acting like vultures. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. If it ain't seven, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, ain't right, gotta divorce us. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. This is kosher condition. 7 wonders, the whole world gotta listen. Listen. Listen.